noise, it's all good. We've got kids in the background, animals in the background. Okay. And we are live. We can sit and chat here for a bit if you want, you guys, just to see if anyone pops in, and then we can get started. Robert's going to get himself prepared here with his cigar.
Yep.
Everyone's got their drink.
I'm waiting for Tim Meyer to hop in because me and Eric in on him earlier.
I love he says an autumnal IPA.
To hop in to watch this one or to come on?
Yeah.
He's a good guy. Tim's a good guy.
Yeah, I was listening to him on Dead Headspace, and he seemed pretty interesting.
Yeah, he's really nice. He's in the...
look at that.
Oh, there he is.
Hey, Tim.
Tim. Hey, man.
Yeah,
right away. See? He was right on that. He's here
My
to
gosh,
you
Robert,
guys.
did you time that?
Is that really Tim? Tim, is that really
Is he
you,
really there?
Or Robert, is that you? Are you making a fake account?
No. No. That is him.
Hey,
Hi.
hey, Tim.
Hey, Tim. Hey, I'm
Hello,
no.
Em. Hey, Marcus.
Yeah, Mark.
Long-time fan. Hey, Priscilla. Hey, Jason.
Was it
Yeah,
G?
exactly.
What's an autumnal IPA?
That's too funny. Well, perfect. Now that we have people rolling in, anyone in the
This
comments,
is
if
for
you guys have any
Tim.
questions, take a drink. Cheers. Get your lover boy up there.
My boy.
Wait, that's a drink, guys. Okay.
Yeah. Okay,
The last interview with Robert and EC that I saw, Robert was prone in his garden, shirtless, drinking God only knows what. It was
we were expecting that. Were we not expecting that? I was kind of expecting that.
Yeah.
I'm in the same garden. I'm just in a different position.
But you have really good plants. You have fabulous growth.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, there's a way with words, Ruthann. Well, perfect. Let's jump into this and let's get right into introducing you guys. We have a fantastic panel of authors here. So, EC, why don't you jump in, talk a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your work, and we'll go from there.
All right. EC, my name's Eric. That's just, I go by EC. It would normally be Eric Christian Hanson, for people who don't know me. I was very playwright focused and had a lot of short plays produced. And when COVID started, made a transition and had a notion of attacking some horror fiction. But what some people don't know how that happened, not just from being bored as a gourd during COVID, was I teach a horror themed writing class at college. So we watch films and then generate argument papers. So me being around that for 2 or 3 years, I think my brain was in a place of like, I want to do this. And people, when I attended NYU nearly a decade ago now, they were always like, I'd write these like sad sack family dramas. And I think they were like, but I'd also have a lot of tension. So they were like, write a horror thing, write a horror thing, write a horror thing. And I never attempted to please them. So it's been like a long, like an inevitable thing, but something I arrived at. So currently, I've had a few short stories published in various anthologies, not many, but D&T Publishing put out All Things Deadly Salem Stories on August 6th, which was, ironically, the release date was on my birthday, which was pretty special in that regard. So
it's a nice birthday present.
That was a pretty good one. Yeah. It was pretty fun. So that's where I'm at. And, I have my wife and I welcomed a daughter 6 months ago, our first child. So between the writing and trying to read, that's how I'd introduce myself.
You've got your hands full. I didn't realize she was only 6 months old. Yeah. Oh my goodness, so
I know she looks like she's 5, but yeah, she's 6 months. She's 6 months.
She's so cute.
I know she's
so sweet, so sweet. Michael, how about yourself?
Hi, I'm Mike Tyree. I write horror, weird fiction, things like that. I self-published my first book last year, Pottersville Blues. It's a little anthology with 4 novelettes and a novella. I've been writing professionally for about 5 years now. I just wrapped up the sequel to this, and that should be out later this year, probably maybe like early December. I live in Madison Heights, Virginia, which in Central Virginia. So it's kind of a weird place. If you drive, a few hours north, you're just outside of DC. You drive a few hours to the southwest, it's dueling banjos, and every gas station you stop in, there's someone on the corner telling you that you got a pretty mouth. So it's an interesting.
You got a pretty mouth.
it's the South, but it's not the deep South. So, but yeah, I mean that's me.
Is it odd that you said that and it made me want to go there? Does
No.
that make me weird? Just a little bit. Priscilla said, Madison Heights. Hey, Michael, I'm in the forest.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's maybe 15 minutes from here.
Oh boy.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So Priscilla's close. How about you, Ruthann? She's in the I got a pretty mouth area too. I
do. Hi, y'all. I'm Ruthann Jagge. I've been writing. It'll be it's just about 2 years. And I kind of fell into it. I entered a contest with a really huge publishing company. I had no idea what I was doing. I was so far over my head, punching above my weight. I didn't know how to format. I didn't know how to do anything. It was a dark speculative fiction horror contest. Well, I didn't win the contest, but I got a letter from the editor, and this is about 2 years ago, and it's an extremely noted publisher. And they said, well, your story isn't what we're looking for, but we need you to keep writing. And I went, what? And they were like, yeah, we absolutely love your style. You're easy to read. You're very fluid. Fast forward, I haven't stopped writing since. I've been published in about 15 anthologies.
Wow.
With several different publishers. It's the hardest and best thing I've ever done. And January, D&T Publishing is putting out my first solo novella. It's called The New Girl's Patient, and I'm very excited about that. Looking forward to it. I'm working on a trilogy, and I'm working on a bunch of other good things like solo projects and projects for next year. And I have probably 4 more coming out this year. So in spite of all the crazy things going on in our world, my writing has really kept me going and taken off.
It's just flourished. Yeah, that's a lot.
It is. I've been very, very fortunate. I keep people around me that are better than I am, like these guys. And I think that the community itself is supportive.
That's Robert Trinks.
Yeah. Robert's like, what?
What?
No, the people are just fantastic. And if you get in a bind, there's always somebody to help you. I live on a cattle ranch in the middle of nowhere, Texas, with my husband, and this is what I do, and I'm thrilled to be here. Thank y'all for having me.
Yeah, thank you. So it's really cool that you guys both are experiencing D&T Publishing. That's really neat. Is that how you guys, because you guys know each other from before, is that how you guys met?
Eric and I, yes.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is we had one in the JD Horn, the Reef Fan. You want to explain that, how we kind of were crossing paths?
We published in a really outstanding anthology called Good Southern Witches together. That's Curious Blue Press, J.D. Horn editor, and it's one of the most diverse creative books out there in terms of witchcraft stories, and it was just a fabulous experience. And I've made some really good friends from that anthology, one of them being EC. You find your tribe, and like I say, you keep people around you that are better than you, and you just hear of opportunities, and you learn what not to do, and you just try to keep the ball rolling. It's probably the most addictive thing I've ever done. You can't stop doing it. You wake up in the middle of the night, and you're like, my husband's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I just gotta edit this because I thought of something.
I have an idea.
It's so much fun. I'm sure y'all can relate to that.
Oh yeah.
We'll keep doing it then. Keep doing it because then my addiction is the reading. So if you keep writing, then I have something to read. So we'll be in a happy place.
Exactly. Lucky us.
Yeah, exactly.
15 more things just picked up Ruthann's stuff. Just saying, 15 more places just happened. So, all right, Rob. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, hey. I'm Robert P. Ottone. I write some things. But also, I want to kind of mention that Michael, so last year, there were 3 collections that really like knocked my socks off and like really blew my mind and were just so incredible. And Michael's was one of them. So everybody should pick up his collection, Potter's Field Blues. It's so incredible.
Reading it.
The breadth of storytelling going on in that collection is ridiculous. It's on another level. So Michael's very humble, but he should be, less humble.
I appreciate that, man. I really do.
Everyone needs
We're
to
going
be
to
on a
help you with
pedestal.
that, Michael.
That's right. You don't have to promote yourself. Let everyone else promote you for you. Okay, that's it.
But,
I really like hearing things like that on this channel when we're doing these lives. Hear the authors gush about other authors' work and support them. That's what makes my heart go ooey gooey, I tell you. And I'm not like the most happiest person in the world, maybe a little bit. Just, I am Canadian. I hear that's one of our bad traits.
I cry everything, so I'm like happy.
Yeah, Rob was the first real friend I think I made in the horror writing community. Like I remember last year, I was trying to I've been networking, trying to meet people and get my book out there and everything, and we started bonding over our Negan Halloween costumes, and then one thing led to another, and I was like, "Hey, buddy, if I sent you this book, would you maybe read it, maybe say something nice about it?" And then it just sort of spiraled from there,
And that's that goes back to what Ruth Ann was saying, right? Like the idea of finding your tribe, So I talk to Michael pretty frequently. I talk to Eric every day, I feel like, and I talk to Michael pretty frequently as well. And that just goes along with it. But that really is such an important part, because there's going to be segments of the community that you really click with really well, and then there's going to be other parts that you're like, oh, these people are really great, but these are this is my
right.
crew.
Right.
So and part of that is because I'm an active HWA Horror Writers Association member, and that's what I found to be the biggest benefit of that is really helping to find the tribe very quickly, and getting a lot of support and getting a lot of love from that community as well. So again, meeting Mike and Eric and Nichi and Ruth Ann through Eric. Nichi,
yes.
So Nichi, how did you and I met through
Jay and Brad?
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. I had heard your name and I had seen your collection on people's channels, especially Brad's channel, and then you were on Coffin Couch with Sion and Jay, and then we connected after that, and you were like, yeah, I would love for you to read and review my book. I would just be honored. And I was like, an author would be honored for me to read and review their book? Yes. So I went and I grabbed it right away.
I always like how you put things, all of your reviews, and I always think back of your unboxings and stuff that you've done of the monthly I don't know what you call those, I guess,
subscription boxes.
The subscription boxes and stuff. I always kind of want to pull the trigger on one of those, but then I'm like, I see you do them. I'm like, oh, that is really cool, and it makes me want to do it more. So I think you do a really nice job. But yeah, to have you do my book and to get to do your author profile that we did, that was a lot of fun. Where I told everybody to wear the masks, and that was a good time.
Yes, you did.
I have to say one thing now regarding Robert, because he's in a mode of praising Michael, which you should praise Michael, and he's Rob's going to do some great things, and I don't want him, to use these. He hosted an Instagram live for me when I was in Salem around the time my book came out. He's great, but I just mean he's writing pretty spectacular stuff, but he's also part of a publishing company Michael Jess Alexander's book. It's why when I was getting into this community, I want to, hitch my wagon to this place. Yeah. And, so it shouldn't be lost on the communal aspect and all that. But, Rob's got great taste, and not just with the choices he makes in his own writing, and he's not afraid to take chances where some of these other things, which might sound hypercritical, which I don't mean to be, he's not going to just kind of put something or put out an anthology and do the most popular thing. He's going to kind of give people a chance, and he's receptive to that. And, Yeah, that's my little gush session, but we should have that in regards to Robert, because he's going to do wonderful things, and he is doing them. But sometimes people out there, it's just like, I want to be in this with all the popular people, and he doesn't conduct himself in that manner, and I appreciate it. That's all.
You're very sweet.
What about this gorgeous lady down here? I'm going to try to point. Oh. Come on, she needs some love too. Look
she does, yeah. Go ahead.
She looks so lovely. Yeah, of course you. We're having like a little brotherly love moment here, and I'm like,
I've been so fortunate. I've had some really amazing people not only take me under their wing, but just kind of tell me what to avoid.
Yeah.
And I think Eric just made a very good point. One thing that really strikes me and stands out to me is when you hear about something, or you get an invitation, or there's an open call, and it's something different. It's something that isn't being done. Everybody's not doing. It came from the sky. It came from the sea. It came from your backyard. When I
from under the bed,
things that are really unusual, because my style, if I had to qualify it, is more of a homegrown horror. I like to write about what happens around us every day.
Yeah.
And especially in my setting, I mean, I've got fields on four sides. I've got a woods. I've got old cemeteries. I like to read about the kind of horror that you just look out your back door and think, wow, is there something out there? So that's the kind of horror that I like to write also. So when I see imaginative tropes and calls that are really creative and cool, that somebody put some effort into, not just to be in with the cool kids, although it's wonderful because everybody I've ever published is cool.
Yes.
That's what I look for, and that's what I gravitate to. Because I think that even if you're in an anthology with people that are creative like that, we all shine. It becomes, you focus the work on the individual stories, but because the subjects you're writing about are so incredibly diverse or cool or interesting, that everybody, it just becomes like you read it and it's like, oh my God. I was in a little book this year. It's Crimson Pinnacle, R.J. Rolls. He's just a great guy. And it was Fairy Tale Horror Show. And he took everybody from Kevin Kennedy, Natasha Sinclair, Matt Clark, who's an extreme kind of writer, myself, and we did dark retellings. We twisted some fairy tales. And even though it's a little book that not a lot of people have read, it's one of the best, coolest books. It's probably my favorite story. I did a little story called Midnight at the Glass Slipper, and it was a Cinderella take, and she was a barkeep. But it got really ugly because the mob was involved with her, disposing of her stepmom and her ugly stepsisters and everything. I had the most fun writing that story. And usually I'm not afraid to go dark, not anymore, but I wrote some of it and then I had to go wash my face because I'm like, oh, something I really just wrote there. I really just used power tools.
You just went there. You went there.
You get an opportunity to go like that, and you get an opportunity to really push the envelope, whether it's because of the people that are around you and there's such good authors that are going to be included in the anthology, or you do it yourself. Everybody shines. So to me, like Eric was saying, I tend to look for the things like Robert, obviously, and I'm sure Michael too. You look for the things that not everybody else is writing about.
Right.
That to me is what right now is the coolest thing out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Laurel says that sounds amazing, Ruthann. She also said something about Robert up here.
Yeah, he is killing. He's killing.
Chilling back, sitting back there.
But Nikki, I just want to, memo right now. It's 2022 is going to be the year of Ruthann. She's going to be drop kicking doors down, and I know she's doing really well. But with the novella coming out and everything, it's going to be get out of the way, and it's she's doing some special stuff.
You prop me up a lot of days more than you think, and I appreciate it. Yeah, I really do.
That's what it's all about.
Sometimes you just post a baby picture and my day's better.
That's a cute. Yeah. That is a cute.
Yeah.
And Eric,
it's my wife. It's my wife.
Eric knows I don't really like kids, but Eric's cute. So
nice. He's resident babysitter for me. So And just drop
And you-
drop her off.
Wait, you trust him?
Don't curse me with
Yeah, I trust him. Oh yeah, it's part of my plan. So I'll have a kid in about 9 years.
So Jay's wondering if everyone's pieces are available on Amazon because
Yes.
all he's got is
Yes.
Robert's.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
there's
perfect. Well, let's take a
Michael's-
quick moment here and let's say hi to everyone that's popped in. Sorry, you
Oh,
guys.
nice.
I didn't say hi to Marcus yet. He popped in
Hey,
there.
Marcus.
Noah
Marcus.
came in.
Noah,
Hey.
my boy. Oh, I love Noah. Laurel.
Laurel.
Hi, Laurel.
Yes.
Talk about like crazy talented. Laurel Hightower.
Yeah. Really serious.
Like her and Tim Myers. Like, no big deal. Hey,
Yeah.
It's true. Okay, so I had a live show last night and I asked them a pretty hard question.
Yeah.
And because we have gone through all this love fest, it's going to be like the first question other than introducing yourselves that I'm going to dive into.
nice.
Because we just had this gushing love fest. Michael, it's okay. You got this. How does it feel to know that your writing and what you're doing is inspiring future authors that are out there trying to do their thing or that are too scared to jump in it, but they have stories to tell?
So I think we go Ruthann.
Oh.
Ruthann, they're putting you in the spotlight right away.
I love it. I love it. See, Nikki, this would happen. I don't think of myself that way. What I like to think of is because, and I love diversity. I don't see gender. I don't see color. I don't see anything when I write or who I publish with or who I write with. But it's still a very male-dominated field, dark speculative fiction and horror. So what really appeals to me and makes me happy is maybe there's some girls out there that would like to write or would like to go into a field that may not be biographies or whatever. And what's so exciting is even the YA, even your young adult books now are leaning, there's a lot of great dark speculative stuff coming out in those fields. So for me, I don't feel as though I'm inspiring yet, but I will encourage. And I will cheer you on and I will prop you up and I will, if you get stuck, I'm not an educator, but I sure as hell am a cheerleader. So if you're a kid and you tell me you want to write, I will sit with you. I will help you. I will go in every. Now on that, I did have a young lady who asked for some help a while back, but she felt that the field that I write in was not what she was looking for. She was looking for like screenplays, like Eric, that type of thing. And one thing I told her is it doesn't matter what your focus is, because like Eric was talking about his switch to the horror from playwriting and that kind of thing. Just write every chance you get. I don't care what you write, put your words down. Finished is better than perfect. Finish your story. You can go back, you can get help, you can edit, you can rewrite. The story that's being published in January as a standalone novella was rejected 3 times. Don't worry about getting rejected. Rewrite it, make it better, get help, let people read it. So in that respect, if there's even one person that wants to write in the genre, I'm here for you. I'm your girl. I'll prop you up all day long.
And I like how James said this, that he not only do you guys inspire future authors, James is a musician and he's got a YouTube channel where he actually writes and composes his own pieces that inspired him by something that he's read, which is really, really cool to hear.
Yeah. That's such a cool idea. Why hasn't anybody thought of that?
Right? Yeah. I think people need to be hitting James up and saying, listen, if you've read my book and something inspired you, I need your music. I need your piece so I can put it to like some type of like book trailer or something,
oh my
like
gosh,
that.
That's a great idea.
Right?
Because I know Eric had a playlist. He hasn't sent it to me because he's a dork. But he had a playlist.
You see that, Rob?
Deb fight words.
I'm speaking next.
Now I'm thinking this is the way to go, is the playlists that go along when you're releasing something.
Yes.
Because I don't know, Michael, do you listen to music when you write?
It depends on what I'm writing. So it doesn't always work. if I'm writing something that's really, really dialogue heavy, then I don't really listen to things that have lyrics. I usually listen to like music scores. So like the Black Coat's Daughter soundtrack, the Hereditary soundtrack, Midsummer. I think I listened to a podcast one time where Paul Tremblay said he did something similar, that he listened to like the Black Coat's Daughter soundtrack, and shit like that is just, oh man. I remember one time I was writing something late at night and I put that on and it just creeped me the fuck out. But, it I mean sometimes that does help. Or like sometimes if I'll listen to like Jerry Cantrell solo stuff or like Chelsea Wolfe, stuff like that. That really works.
I can tell you, it's so funny that you said the Paul Tremblay thing, because I took a writing workshop with him, and he mentioned that he writes the scores and stuff. And with Survivor Song, he mentioned that he was listening to some other stuff also, but he predominantly listens to scores. So that's so funny. I don't know the article that you read or whatever, but like I was just going to say, oh, Paul Tremblay does that. But like, that's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah. That's really neat.
I think it needs to be a trend. This actually, I saw a book recently, and they had a code in the book, in the preface of the book, that you could hold your phone up to and get your Spotify playlist.
Yep.
That is genius to me. It makes it a multi-dimensional experience that way. I'm big on Lana Del Rey in the background.
Yes.
Something with a haunting. If I really want to go dark, and I don't remember the name, but there was a group singing in John Wick 2 on the stage, and they're almost operatic, and they're really dark. And I like a lot of like dark opera and stuff like that, that kind of thing. It just all depends on what I'm reading. Eric's grinning.
No, it's the cat.
He's checking out Michael's cat.
Actually, Nikki, I wanted to say one thing so I don't forget. You were talking about like people reading your stuff or inspiring others. I think the most interesting thing I've ever experienced is, there's so many people out there, and obviously we live in a universe where like, oh, I want a Stoker, or, so many people posting like Stephen King's the best. Like, you're like, well, obviously, right? Like that's like that's like saying Michael Jordan's the best. But like all the people on this panel, excluding myself, no. But Michael is creating really interesting stuff. Robert's putting out, not just the stuff he writes, but, Michael Jess and all that. Like, there's great material out there, but it goes beyond like, oh, that's a good writer. So like years ago, I lived in LA. So when you're talking about inspiring others, I think it's when you inspire others and you don't know you did is when it's really powerful. And I had a coworker, I worked with this guy, I worked at Abercrombie, believe it or not, in Hollywood, and I wasn't good looking enough to be on the floor, so they just shoved me in the stockroom.
What?
But I started putting up these plays, black box plays, and then I had this like little mini goodbye party at a bar. Okay, and I'm saying goodbye to all the people that I've talked to, and then whatever. And there was this one guy. I'm not going to use his name, of course, but he approaches me and he was just like, hey, what's going on? He's kind of like squirrely, and I didn't really like him. I always thought he was in a bad mood all the time, and I'm kind of grumpy, so it just we could never work. But he approached me on this like send-up party. And he goes, hey, and he's almost pointing at me where I'm like ready to fight. But he's like, hey, you taught me so much. Your writing taught me so much about myself. And I'm thinking about all the stuff I've written. I'm like, really? Like, what? I just read these whatever plays. But that's when it was like, okay. And that's why something like, I love the book Franny and Zoe by Salinger. It's just like, it's kind of like why are you doing something, like to be less fixated on awards and all this stuff, and to devalue yourself when your material doesn't make it to like the top of the mountain. Those people are out there. And those people are like, this means something to me. I got into poetry because of you, or I, picked up the guitar because I realized like, wow, like I got to express myself. So when you're asking about inspiring others, like that's when it's the best. And I know it sounds like hokey when it's like one random person and we want to, have 15,000 followers and everybody adore us. But truth be told, those moments are like they're worth gold. You know, they're incredible. So and they're
absolutely.
To sort of piggyback on that, that's why I'm like Nichi was nice enough to have me on the show that Todd Keisling and Laurel and E and John Langan. Like, you know, like it's really hard for me because like John Langan. Oh,
that's getting emotional.
But like, you know, like John Langan's work like means so much to me. So like it's so weird to like tell somebody that, you know, and like I don't know, it's just weird. But like, you know, talking about the things that really like mean something to you, you know, like you protect those things and you carry those things with you, you know. And I'm sort of experiencing that now. And I don't know how many of you have read this, but I wanted to talk about this on the show, Nichi, because I messaged you about it. I didn't get a chance to. But Todd Keisling's scan lines, that is like, to me personally, like that is so it hooked me emotionally and like wrecked me. Yeah. And I have not stopped thinking about it. And all I want to do is just like it pushes me to want to do something as good as that. And it just meant like a lot to me to get to be on the show. I didn't even get to.
Somebody get Todd in here. Yeah. Go Twitter him. Go Twitter. Go tweet him. Todd.
But
Todd.
You know, when stuff like that happens, it like you said, you know, that means so much more than like, oh yes, this won this award, or like this was on this bestseller list. Like to see material come out that really resonates with you, you know, like creating that connection to readers and creating that connection to other people in the community is huge. Like Michael's collection resonated with me in a big way, and it floored me. So like I still think about his collection, you know. And Eric, like I loved your collection, and you know how much I loved your collection. Like it's just I don't know, stuff like that really matters to me.
I make a total dork of myself all the time because I'm not a writer, I'm not an author, but I'm a reader, and I will approach any author that I have read their work and it like really impacted me in any way or something that stood out for me. I'll make a total ass of myself and I'll go in private message them. They'll be rolling their eyes at me, whatever. I don't care.
Like, so like with Paul Tremblay or whatever, when I did that thing, I was trying really hard to not be like, hey, remember when you wrote A Head Full of Ghosts? Yeah. That was really cool. You know, like I was trying really hard not to, but it's just so damn good. And, you know, I've read some of his short stories and stuff, but like that's the one that I'm like hooked to, you know, but like, I don't know. It's just one of those things. Oh, Mike Salt is here.
Yeah, what kind of cigar you got there, bro?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is a Macanudo Park.
Listen, Marcus, are you still in the chat? Mike went live yesterday on Instagram, and he came into our live last night, and he said that you looked really punchable. So I told him that he looked really punchable, and I don't think he picked up why I was saying that.
Salt is a great guy. He's always
Salt is hilarious. Oh man.
He's Loki. Do we all know Loki DeWitt or whatever? Do we all know him? He is awesome too. He's a sweet guy. You guys should.
He would never. Never. That doesn't sound like a Mike thing to do. Not at all. But I stuck up for you, Marcus, and got him back. I don't think it went over very well. I wasn't as smooth with the process, but I did it. Wow. What about you, Mike? How does it feel to know that you're inspiring people?
I'm inspiring people?
Yeah, absolutely.
You inspire me, man. Reading your collection makes me want to push myself harder. For sure.
I mean, I guess it does make me feel good that like at least on some level, like, you know, people have like an emotional, you know, connection with my characters and laugh at my shitty jokes and stuff like that. So Red Legault has been beta reading for me, and she's been beta reading the stories for my next collection. And there's this one story that I wrote in there that it was really fucking hard to write. Like it hurt like hell to write. So I had this feeling that it was going to hurt like hell for people to read it. It's a story that deals with infertility issues and loss and things like that. And I remember I got the notes back from her, and she said that it was just really, really heartbreaking and everything. And it made me feel good that it's like, I felt bad that it's like, you know, of course, like I don't want to make people fucking heartbroken, but at the same time, it made me feel good that at least like I got that emotional response that I wanted out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Don't you think that's something about horror that's often misunderstood? Is that above all, it's an emotional response to what you're reading or what you're watching?
Absolutely.
You know, so many people just think it's blood and guts and gore, and it's not really. It's the emotional response to what's happening immediately. And that's what's so fabulous, Mike, if you can write something like that and you can get something back and it's tear stained. You know what I mean? Your work is done. You did what you set out to do with the story, and I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
There's so many subgenres within horror that it just you can find your place within horror. And so many people say, I would never read horror, never, no. And I'm thinking, I said that once. I said that was a genre that I could just totally get rid of, and that and sci-fi, and look at me now. And I'm like, there's so many people out there that are reading horror and don't even realize that they're reading some type of horror in their stories. And I'm like, it's everywhere. Real life horror is a thing. So if you're reading those really emotional, everyday reads, like Betty by Tiffany McDaniel, it's not category as under horror, but it definitely is real life horror. There is everything you could think of in that book. And it's scary because it's real life, right? So everyone should read horror. If you don't read horror, where are you? Sorry, Christian just popped in. I want to say hi to Christian here.
A lot of, other, because I'm a teacher or whatever, but like other English teachers that I work with are like, I have this beach read. I've been doing this beach read. And it's like, all right, that's cool. Like, do what you got to do. But like, I don't know. First of all, I hate the beach. I'm like,
and children.
And I don't like children.
Look at me. Do I look like I belong on a beach?
Yes, you do.
But like,
I'm the whitest white girl. I'm the whitest Irish girl alive.
I don't know. It's just like, I don't want to read something that's going to make me comfortable. Mm-hmm. My version of comfort is revisiting a book that I love. So like I've read Bret Easton Ellis's Less Than Zero probably 10 times in my life. And every time I've revisited that, I get something new out of it, but it's still just as challenging as the first time that I read it. And I've read The Fisherman twice now.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. Same thing. I've gotten something totally different out of it. That I had a very strong emotional reaction to it the second time I read it. And to be honest, I'm probably going to revisit Scanlines again. I read it, and it's just, it wrecked me the first time. I haven't told Todd this, but like,
well, now he knows.
Todd, where are you? Todd.
But like, it really, so that to me is like my version of comfort reading, is going back and rereading something. And my wife actually does this as well, for the similar reasons, not to be like, to turn her brain off and relax, but like she likes to read all of the Lord of the Rings and then the Hunger Games like over again. And it's like, she still gets so emotionally invested in these things. So I don't know. It's and I do too, but that's my version of like comfort reading. And so like when everyone's like, oh, I read this memoir of this woman who went to Europe and found herself. It's like, cool. Which one? There's 45 of them. So we're talking about specifically. I don't know. I'm not a poetry guy. Like I hate teaching poetry. It's the worst. But I've been reading some poetry collections, and that's been affecting as well. And I can see myself really coming back to those as well, So I don't know. Sorry, I don't mean to occupy all the time.
No, that's okay.
No, that's good.
Hey, Nick. Hey, Juicy.
Who's Juicy?
Juicy Stig.
Wow.
Don't you think it relates to where you are in your life at certain points too, as to what you read in the genre or in any genre, but particularly this genre, how it affects you? I mean, there are certain times, and I'm typically a pretty upbeat person, but like everybody, there's days that are just heavy. And I think sometimes I read according to what I feel I can tolerate in that time that I'm feeling that way. Because for me, there's lighter horror, and then there's really dark stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that tends to be what somebody just pointed out, the more quiet horror. To me, the scariest stuff, or the stuff that affects me the most profoundly, is the insidious, quiet stuff.
And
if I'm not in a good headspace when I read it, I mean, I won't sleep.
Yeah.
It kind of eats away at you because you can connect so deeply to those visceral feelings that whatever you just read pulled out of you. So I think to what you were just saying, I think a lot of it has to do with where you are when you read some of that too. Hey, Candace.
Hey, Candace.
Hey, Candace, yeah. Hey.
Talking about quiet horror, like Brian Evanson, you know, that guy's like master of quiet horror, and like Curtis Lawson, same kind of thing, you know. So like those sleeping a week.
Mike, I thought you were an author.
But yeah,
Yeah, we can sleep when we're dead.
Yeah, exactly.
everybody have a favorite poet.
Sylvia Plath. Huh?
Sylvia Plath. Wow, that's an English teacher answer right there.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go weird. I'm gonna say either Walt Whitman or, and this is gonna be a weird one, Lana Del Rey.
Oh, love her.
Oh.
I agree.
yeah.
I agree.
Her poetry book is phenomenal.
Tupac Shakur.
Nice.
Yeah.
If you're talking about contemporary poetry, Mike Emmenbach. He's one of the best writers out there, and his poetry is mind-blowing.
Sleeping for a week is called a
I was-
coma.
I was hoping, Ruth Ann, you'd say Big Mike has a poetry collection out there
No.
somewhere, but darn, damn it.
Yeah, he probably does, but it's probably buried under porn somewhere.
Oh, jeez.
Awesome. Keats, chat. That's cool. I don't know about poetry. Yeah.
A dream come true. Yeah, 12 years. Yeah, I'm right there with you, Mike. Let's go sleep for a week.
Mike, I think it's interesting that you're
Rilke, yeah.
that you're a Tupac guy.
Oh yeah.
All right. I mean, I'm a Biggie guy. So
Oh, okay.
I'm New York.
Oh, man.
New York. Man. Big ups to Brooklyn. That's good.
Is that going to start a bit of a rival here?
No, we're good.
Oh, way to kill the fun.
Yeah.
So are your guys' families really supportive of what you guys do, whether they read your work or whether they just give you the time to be able to sit down and write? Easy, you're laughing.
Oh, crap. What are we talking? Like, if we're married, we should talk about that person, or if we're like our
I mean, is she gonna watch it? Are you scared for her to hear?
No, she's not. No, like I said for the viewers before I sound horrible, she's been doing incredible work with our child and been doing so much that she hasn't gotten around to my book yet. My parents have my book. They ordered it, or my stepfather ordered it, which was lovely. I don't know what they think, although it's not really up their alley, so I don't expect big high marks. But they're supportive, and my wife's grandmother, who's 90, read it last week. Was like, oh, it was very interesting, and I was like, she read it, and I was like, oh God, those stories, or those 3 stories. I was like, oh no, but yeah, overall. But in regards to you mentioned time. I wake up and usually do the morning feed with the baby. This is actually in the summer, mind you, and I would just scoot off to write. So my wife was supportive of that, so I can't ask for much more. She kind of knows what's, it's important in my life to carve out time or to make the time for it. So she's pretty incredible in that regard. I don't, think she needs to read all my stuff, and there's some things she probably shouldn't read or would want to read. It's just not, her. Like, hey, you want to read this where this guy does this horrible thing? Like,
get him in here. Get him in here.
These 20 things, these 20 stories, or remember that free time that you allowed me to go out and write? This is what I'm writing about. So I'm actually not somebody that, I don't judge family members. Like, I'm not mad at if my stepfather is like, this is horrible. Like, why would you write this? Like, he doesn't like horror, and this is why I teach horror, because to try and train students to get rid of the stigma, just to be open-minded. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't, if they hate it, it's okay. It's okay. But, my stepfather still ordered it. You know what I mean? That shows support. So I can't.
That's support,
There's nothing to deny. You know what I mean? You're like, that's support. Like, my wife's grandma ordered it and read it and liked it, like, in her own way. Like that's incredible. I'm like, she didn't have to do that. Like her mom's reading it. So it's like, you know, I have a coworker who's reading it and he's like, I haven't read something in 10 years, but he's like, I'm on page 50. I'm actually getting through this thing. I was like, oh, wow. And his wife's a teacher and she's like, well, you're actually reading. So if that happens, that's cool. Like that's all it's about. But no, I would say I'm very supported even if they don't like the content. And I'm not here to force anybody to, they're not my students, they're my family. You know,
and there's so many ways to support, right? As family, friends, coworkers, like you said, even if they were to purchase a copy and never even read it, or even if they just, you know, give you that time, you know, if they don't bug you for a little bit, you know, 15 minutes a day, even just to give you a little bit of time to hash out some words or something, you know, like any type of support is thankful. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mike. Have you called her and checked on her, make sure she's okay? Maybe you like scared like literally the death out of her. Have you made sure she's okay? Mike?
Mike, oh my god.
Oh, geez.
My mom read a story that I just had come out in the latest issue of Gravely Unusual, and so I had a copy sent to her also, or rather I sent it to her, and she was like, her response was, yeah, that was gross. Like, yeah, that's probably my grossest one. So I don't know if she liked that one per se, but you know, whatever. It's cool.
Were you really describing sense in that one as well?
There was some sense related talk. Yeah, I think mostly like there's a character who uses a kitchen device on themselves, and that I think kind of freaked her out. So
I never said that she was dead. I said maybe his book scared the poop right out of her, you know, maybe he needs to check on her. I mean, I'm sure Mike's book is pretty terrifying. Yeah, because you do sense very well, Robert. Like,
hey, thank you. I'll take that compliment.
It is definitely a compliment. I tell you, you had my nose like scrunching in disgust, but at the same time, the biggest smile on my face. I was never more worried about myself.
Good.
And the fact that I could snack at the same time. I mean, there's clearly something wrong with me, but it's all good. That's okay. How about you, Mike? Is your family really supportive, whether they give you time or whether they read your work?
Oh, yeah. So my wife, she was my first beta reader. I remember when I finished the first draft of Pottersfield Blues, like the story, not the whole book. She was the first person that I shared it with. I mean, she was actually my first editor on that book. So I mean, she's been with me, you know, since the beginning. I mean, there are some stories. I mean, that one that I told you about that was really rough. That, you know, have been that Red Legault was reading for me. I haven't let her read that because it's a little. I fear it might be a little triggering. I mean, with some of the things it deals with, but yeah, I mean, she's been with me since the beginning, and I mean, she's been extremely supportive, and like I have the best friends, like everyone at work and all my friends have, you know, been really supportive of me, and it's kind of funny. I had a guy at work who bought multiple copies of Pottersfield Blues when it was coming out to give as Christmas gifts. I was like, oh man, that's cool, you know, and he was like, yeah, I'm going to give one to my mother-in-law and grandma and this and that, and I was like thinking, like, I mean, Rob can attest to this because Rob's read it. It's like, I mean, the first story in Pottersfield Blues is like a mashup of Pretty Woman and Eyes Wide Shut. It's pretty rough.
But that's amazing though, and like Nichi was saying, there's so many forms of support, right? And so for your coworker to buy so many copies and share them with people like that, I don't know, that's really beautiful. I had one coworker buy a copy of my book, and she was really sweet about it, but like she was giving it to everybody else, so I was like, oh, that's cool, like that's really neat. So
yeah,
I didn't even sign it for her. She didn't even.
That's the best Christmas gift ever. If I had more readers in my life, I would do the same thing, but I end up just going buying the books for like my fellow booktubers.
Yeah.
And sending it their way for like birthdays or Christmas, because I'm like, you're a reader, you'll read it, I'll send it your way.
Awesome. And I think that's like the best kind of support, you know, and if you know, those people leave reviews, it's even better.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Anybody I send a book to, if you don't do a review, even just simple words as I really liked it, or it wasn't for me, I mean, we can't be friends anymore. It's just, What about you, Ruth Ann? Is your family really supportive?
They are. They don't always understand, but they are supportive. And my husband's totally not a horror guy, but he reads everything I write. And sometimes he's walked into the room and gone, "Who the hell are you?" It's just because it's sometimes the characters that I write or that I write about, sometimes the ones I create are not really what he knows me as. It may be my alter ego or some. I write a lot of strong female protagonists, and sometimes maybe I wish I was more like them, or I had an opportunity to do some of the things they do. So I tend to define them that way. But yeah, I'm really fortunate, and I have all the time. We're retired. My husband had a company for 25 years, so he basically knows that if I'm in front of the computer, you knock on the door, and he's real good about it. It's just the two of us now. I do have some people in my family, and of course, I'm sure we've all heard this. Why can't you write something everybody would like to read? Why can't you write something nice? Because that isn't what I want to write. So
that's where that's where I would turn around and say,
a few people in my family. We have a big merged family. I have 7 siblings. We've got 4 kids between us. We've got grandkids. So I mean, it extends out in a lot of directions. Most people think it's really cool. Recently, I was up in New York visiting some of my family, and my 15-year-old niece from North Carolina was with me. And she was like, "Aunt Ruth, don't tell Mom, but I read those books that you sent her. Do you have more of them? Because I really like your stuff, and I don't think she'd mind as long as they're not dirty." Oh my God. You want to talk about validation?
Yes.
So she had never seen the movie The Witch, so we watched that together on my iPad. And then I read her like the story from Good Southern Witches. So I think in that respect, I was totally validated by my family, by my 15-year-old niece, who thought I was just the coolest person in the world. It's really hard to stay. You guys with young kids are going to find this out. You're cool till about 13, and then you're not so cool anymore. So the fact at 15, she still thought that I was really, really cool, and she wanted to read more of my books. That was my stories. That was really huge to me. So yeah, I'm really, really lucky. And anybody that isn't supportive, I don't need them in my tribe. I don't have to validate or justify what I do anymore. I think we've all spent a lot of years doing that in our lives, and we do this for us. We've got these stories and voices and people and things inside of us, and they need to come out. Whether or not anybody really is interested in connecting with them, we're still going to do it. So that, in that respect, yeah.
Absolutely. And there's a market for everything out there. You're going to find your target audience. So keep doing it for sure. Absolutely. Don't give up. And Michael, I was going to say that story that you keep talking about sounds incredibly intriguing, because I can relate.
God, yeah.
I can extremely relate with, like what you have said that you and your wife have gone through and everything. I've went through all the same stuff. So even though it sounds like it would be incredibly emotional and just powerful and would probably just be a punch to the gut, I already want to read it. So when it's ready.
Me too.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And you know what, you
absolutely.
did, and Mike, you deserve credit, because this genre gets picked on so much, but we, for the most part, we get comfortable in the uncomfortable land.
Yeah.
And to embrace that, you might change somebody's life. It could be 1 or 2 readers, but they may be like, "Oh my God, I went through that and I'm sobbing after I read it," but you might do something for them. So kudos to you, man. That's great.
Thank you.
Absolutely. We've got a question here that came in from Mike, which happens to be one of my favorite questions to ask. And it was actually a question that Robert brought out to me at one point, because he was asked it in an interview sometime, and he said he really loved it. So for the group, if you were in charge of doing a modern reboot, a rewrite of a classic novel and modernizing it to, what book would you pick and what spin would you put on it? Oh. Sorry, Mike, I added to your question there.
Damn.
I got to think about it, because I would say what I said previously, but I want to give a different answer. So
and it doesn't have to be like a horror classic. Like you could even, pick like Secret Garden or right? And then you could decide whether you just want to do a reboot or whether you want to put like a dark twist on it.
I have one. I would do Little Dorrit by Charles Dickens.
Oh.
Yeah, there was like a mini series about 10 years ago, which I found so thrilling, but it got really in my head that I thought, oh, a different variation on this would be fascinating. And when I was at NYU, believe it or not, I did a adaptation of Jane Austen's Northanger Abbey, and played around with it and altered the ending and all that stuff. And my professor at the time was like, I don't know, it seems like you're too faithful to the material, even though the last 10 pages I changed everything. But personal victory there was, I got a note later was like, I actually don't think I gave you enough credit for what you were trying to do there. I'm like, yeah, thank you. No, I'm kidding. I would think Little Dorrit. I think there's just so much to play with there. And Robert heard me say this. I'm a real sucker for family dramas and what's going on with family there, and then mystery, to kind of combine those elements and do my own twist on it. And I just think Dickens is incredible, obviously. That's like saying Stephen King's good, like people post. But
Stephen,
that's
guy from Maine, right? That's
I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Robert Ottone's a little bit better, but that's me.
Jesus Christ.
Who are we talking about? I'm sorry, what?
No. Little Dorrit's mine, so someone else.
I guess like I sort of got to do mine. I love The Legend of Sleepy Hollow probably than any other piece of literature. And I got to write a sequel for it that in the J is for Jack-o'-lantern.
Read that,
yeah. It's I hope you like it if you pick it up. But I know Quentin Curious Volumes just got it, so that was really sweet of her to pick it up. But that was cool. That was fun to write. So like, yeah, I guess if I was to write like a full, maybe I guess like a more analytical piece of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, and really kind of slow the story down and spend more time with Ichabod and with Katrina and Brom and stuff. So I maybe The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. I really love Washington Irving. Like I try to make a pilgrimage to his home here in New York every year, Sunnyside. Like I went there as a kid with my dad, and I've gone there with my wife a couple times, and I just love it there so much. It like means the world to me, and that whole area means the world to me. So like, yeah, I guess I would take a crack at The Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
That's a good choice.
Yeah, I think I'll probably, which I mean, nothing that there's nothing wrong with this. Like, not that I'll really change anything, but I think I'll probably remake Carmilla.
Ooh.
Oh,
that would be hot. I mean, like I said, nothing. Not that I would want to really like remake it and change it or anything. But I mean, I think like a modern take on that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of that, if you have Audible, there is an audio drama version of Carmilla on there that is really, really fucking dope. It has David Tennant playing one of the leads. My wife and I listened to it on the way up to Ohio a few months ago, and it's you need to check it out.
Okay, I got credits. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Awesome. What about you,
Ruthann?
This is really a hard one. I've spun it around in my head a little bit. I would say I would probably do Frankenstein. But I would do it from a female perspective.
Ooh.
And I would do it so that the monster would be a compilation maybe of all her failed romances, and she was trying to create the perfect man as opposed to maybe just a blended human of parts. That might be a lot of fun.
Cool.
I think that would be fun.
Yeah.
That's like my favorite horror classic, so I would read it.
It's just so good, and there's so many things. The Beauty and the Beast trope is one of my very favorites in everything. Whether it's modern literature, whether it's horror, whether it's everything. Comedy, the Beauty and the Beast is always something that kind of pulls at us. The Hunchback of Notre Dame is another great one.
Yes.
there's so many angles that you could twist these stories to and make them not only more contemporary, but give them a different perspective. I do love the legend of Sleepy Hollow. I grew up in upstate New York, and people often say, what got you writing? How did you start? I mean, when you grow up where the whole season of autumn is magical. I mean, the way the light hits the trees, the pumpkins, the apples, the hayride, the decorating, the costumes, there's a smell to it. There's a feel to it. And I think probably when I was 8 years old, I probably wanted to write a ghost story or started writing stories about witches. You know, there's something about that Sleepy Hollow legend in that area that if you ever get a chance, it's like Eric was saying, these places not only inspire, but they kind of don't leave you. Once you visited them and you can connect to stories that were written there, or even going back to, like Mike said, something that you've experienced personally, it kind of leaves an imprint on your heart, and it may inspire you to write other things, or it may inspire you to read other things. But sooner or later, if you're right, you're going to find some little tidbit in there you're going to want to use for your own.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm sorry about this. Keep coming to the lives. Keep spending money. Sorry, not sorry, Laura. Don't worry. It happens to me too. Any ones that I haven't read their work yet, of course, I have to go out and buy it right after.
About the idea of like a gender flip approach to something.
Yeah.
Every time I teach Lord of the Flies, there is an all woman stage version that was done in the UK on the West End. And I'm dying to get my hands on that and use it in the classroom to sort of present that to the students to see if there's any kind of subtext that they pick up on that might be different than in the traditional text. So that's interesting. To maybe an all teenage girl version of Lord of the Flies could be kind of cool. I feel like it would just go pretty well. I don't think women are as idiotic as men. So that
you heard it here, people.
That's true.
I don't think. I think they would be like, yeah. The boat came, we got rescued, 2 people died. That was it.
Oh my God. Marcus has a killer question there. Oh
yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm already stumped by it.
Now we have hit the hour mark. Are you guys okay to go for a little bit longer?
Yeah.
Oh,
we're
yeah.
good.
Hell yeah. Because Marcus is making us keep going.
Yeah, I should ask him if this is the real Marcus. I never thought to ask that. There was somebody in here yesterday with a very close name mocking him. I swear it was him in a different channel and just playing with everybody. But you know,
I like it. I like this question, man.
Yeah.
Question: what is the one story you have in the back of your mind?
Ooh.
Go,
Robert.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's a tough one.
Yeah. I think I have one that I've written the first 35 pages of. And it's a young adult novel, and it takes place here on Long Island. It takes place on the east end of Long Island, and that's one that I would love to. If I only had 1 year, that's the one I would dedicate all my time and effort to, for sure. It's sort of a murder mystery, sort of a rip from the headlines kind of thing.
Ooh. Who's next? Who's ready for it?
Ruthann, are you ready or no?
Eric, always.
She's on the ball.
You know, I'm thinking about this, and I recently did a story, and I actually had to do a lot of research, because it was an invite anthology to a twisted kind of urban legend, but I didn't want to tell it from the typical perspective of Crossroads. When we think about the Crossroads, it's typically related to music and selling your soul to the devil for certain talents and that kind of thing. Well, I did a very different twist on it based on some heavy research and reading that I did about the positioning of crossroads and executions in the Middle Ages and unsanctified ground and that kind of thing. I think, and there's a cemetery very near me. And, you know, when you're very rural, there's a lot of small cemeteries, family cemeteries, forgotten cemeteries.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I had 1 year to write my story, it would be a ghost story. It would be a story about the people in these cemeteries that I stop. Literally, I pull my truck over to the top side of the road and I go visit them sometimes. It would be a story based with a little bit of history, but it would also have a very horrific way that things played out in history that caused certain things to act the way they did now. So I'd like to do something and actually take it back to a you know, another era and then make it contemporary. I think I've got one really, really good haunted ghost story kind of thing in me. So that would be my big one, my final one.
Ooh, I like the sound of that.
Hell yeah.
Eric, Mike?
Mike, who do you want me to go?
Yeah, no, I can go. It's funny because I was just thinking about something like this earlier today. I can't remember who said it, if it was Sadie Hartman or whoever, but someone had brought up a good point that you know, one of the biggest fears that we have is that we'll die before we can finish reading all the books that we want to read. You know, like there's just this infinite amount of books on your, you know, to be read list, and you'll die before you can take in all that. And I was just thinking earlier, it's like one of my biggest fears is having my ticket punched before I can tell all of the stories that I want to tell. You know, to be able to get all of these things out of my head and onto paper, you know. So honestly, I mean, there are a lot of things that I would, you know, a lot of things I have, you know, on the back burner that I would like to finish, but it would probably be one of the next big projects that I want to work on, which, I mean, Rob can attest to this. The, you know, I have a character in Pottersville Blues called William Delacroix, is a serial killer. And in the beginning of the book, you know, because everything is within the same universe, I started building this mythology around the serial killer. And like people started talking about him, like, you know, in little circles, like you'd hear about his trial on TV and this and that or whatever. And then eventually you get to his actual story near the end of the book. And in this next volume, I kind of have a prequel where it kind of goes back a little ways and talks about the years before his killing spree. But one of the next big projects that I want to start is a full-length novel that kind of fills in this 5-year gap while he's, you know, out in town on his little killing spree, and like this whole, you know, like cat and mouse game between, you know, him and the person that winds up catching him. I know that probably sounds kind of simple, but that's something that I would like to finish that arc and finish his story out. Yeah. I kind of told it in reverse. Like I kind of did, I don't know if anyone on here is like a fan of like Doctor Who, but you know how River Song's story was kind of like told in reverse. Like her timeline was kind of inverted with the Doctors. I kind of did that with this character to where I started from the end and worked my way backwards. So like I had this gap of time that I need to fill in, and I would like to just, if nothing else, at least finish that out.
Flesh it out a little bit more. Yeah, no, that's interesting. I like the sound of that.
That's all I have.
Eric, are you ready?
Oh, God.
Should we come back? Do you want to come back?
No, I can do it. I can do it.
Okay. Remember, it's on video, which means we're going to hold you to it.
No, it's true. I've thought about this one. You know, I mentioned having a baby 6 months ago, and you know, I wrote this little mini essay for Horror Oasis, not necessarily for them, but I wrote it. And I guess I want to. There's something in my brain about trying to capture the pain of like delivery room, having a baby in that first 2 or 3 months, and how, now don't get me wrong, it's such a blessing to be able to have a child, but you know, my wife and I had to have a couple of team meetings led by me that was like, oh my goodness, you know, everybody said your life would change when that was happening. I feel like a horrible person because I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't. And which ironically, I was working in a school and also reading Great Gatsby at the same time, and I'm, you know, reading the character Tom and just like, oh man, this guy's like such a brute, and then feeling I'm like, I'm kind of like this jerk. Like, this is horrible. This is an awful feeling. But but having to kind of confront, oh wow, like I'm not fully like that guy, but I like him in a few ways, and hating that and trying to capture those emotions, like what Michael wrote, and he's talked about something he wrote that was being beta read about putting something out there. It's not about making like people cry and are uncomfortable, but it's just about trying to putting your pulse on a situation for going, 2 or 3 months in, would I say, I want another kid? I don't know that I would, and that might sound fresh to people because it's such a blessing. But could I put that in a situation? Could I capture what my wife went through without it being her as the character, and kind of the horrors of what that's like when so much can go wrong, and then you have success at the end because you have a child, and now it's like the best thing ever in the world. But I think I'd like to try and attempt something that paints a really ugly picture, or I'm not afraid to paint the ugly picture of the first 2 or 3 months and trying to make something compelling about it. We'll see. It's like something that keeps swirling around in my brain. I haven't opened up the Word doc to do it, but and I wouldn't put it out there or even submit it to anybody unless I felt like I captured how ugly it can be. Because if you're going through that stuff, you don't look at yourself in the mirror, or you don't have those team meetings, like, it can get bad fast. So I'm just trying to, confront something, not even just that I or my wife went through, but just trying to kind of confront the complexity of life, and, dismiss that whole notion of like, second that child comes, like, you're just like a changed person and everything's roses. It's like, no. Maybe at month 4 you are, but those first 2 or 3 months are excruciating. So, and other people might disagree, and that's okay, but to try and capture that in content and make people go, oh, wow, this is, compelling but hard to read. I think that's what I would attempt based on Marcus's killer question.
It is a really good question. And you know what? It's almost like an outlet too, for you, or for the story that, Mike that he's working on. It's a way for you guys to try to get that part of life and reality out. And so it's that outlet that, a little bit of release off of your guys' shoulders as well.
Yeah. Horror is cathartic.
Yeah, it really is.
In a lot of different ways.
It really is.
Positive and negative. Sounds like Eric kind of wants to write a little bit about the monster within. That you're acknowledging the monster, and I can almost see you making it. Is it a real monster, or is it something that I'm not coping with that was there before? That kind of thing. That's kind of a fascinating take on it to me.
Absolutely. I want to thank Andreas here, because always coming into the live shows, and I did not know that you go out and start ordering the books as soon as I announce it so that you can start reading them right away. You are fantastic. You're always sharing and, just blowing up that the lives are going on. So thank you so much, Andreas. You were absolutely awesome.
Can I say hi to my boy Nick? He just popped in.
Go ahead. I'm behind here on the comments now. They were all popping up there. Why is it Marcus Hawk? Poor Marcus.
Well, throw some love to Nicholas Dyack in the chat. One of the hosts of the amazing HP Lovecast podcast. He's my boy. I love him.
There
he is.
There we go.
Oh, nice.
Love him.
I think Laurel liked everybody's ideas. That's pretty good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's Dr. Who nerds.
Yeah, kudos to her.
Yes, she loves them all. Can we make them happen? I agree. Sorry, you guys probably see my finger just popping up there. Yes, write that, Ruthann.
Nice. Yeah.
See, there's so many. I'm sorry, I'm just catching up on the comments here for you guys now, making sure I didn't miss any questions either. Mike says Marcus Hawk is a coward and he'll fight him. We've got to.
They're really going at it.
I tell you,
favorite.
I thought
we have like a little riot, little fight going on in the the chat here, which is entertaining for us here. Yeah, somebody just right, Marcus and Mike.
If you look at these two names, Marcus Hawk and Mike Salt,
I think Mike's a little salty.
Characters up with names like that.
Yeah, I think Mike's a little salty. So he's kind of throwing it out.
Mike's got a new book, so we should. Good luck, Mike. Good luck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man.
Yes, that just came out. Actually, I was looking at it last night, and I'm like, man, I am so broke. But like, I was like, at the same time, I was thinking it's only $8.99 Canadian for the paperback. Like that never happens. Never. I don't think I've paid less than that for. No, it doesn't happen. So I was so tempted, but I'm so broke right now. You know, school just started. I had to buy my kid a Chromebook for school this year.
Wait, you had to buy a book? They didn't give him one?
Yeah, they don't have enough. So if you could afford to buy it so that your kid had one, then they ask you to. But they do have some on hand for any kids that can't afford it. And I'm like,
I'm with Robert.
Oh. And I'm like, you know what? I feel bad because if I can't afford it, and then another kid that really can't afford it is out a computer, and they're having to do everything by hand, and they're missing out or they're falling behind.
Okay, wait. That's the school district's problem. That's not your problem or that kid's problem. That's the school's problem. They need to be getting everybody Chromebooks,
right? But at least it's not. At least it's not like Apple, because I tell you, some people have to have like Apple. Tablets and stuff like that are like 800 or 1,000, and I'm like,
Chromebooks are better for school. Well, my school is Chromebook school. They're better. They're much better for school than Apple for sure.
Absolutely. Sorry, you guys. I'm still going through these comments.
Oh, Nick's got a question.
Oh, jeez.
What would be a good read, guys?
What does he say? What does he say?
I think a lot of them are talking about your reads of what you would want to get out there before you were to die. You know, Marcus is like hitting question because a lot of these are coming out while you guys were giving those answers. Yeah. So, tossing out a question from Nick. It's a long one and it's small because I've just got my little iPhone. I'm sorry. It's too tiny. Can you see the whole question?
Yeah.
Okay, because I can't see it on my screen.
Can I go first?
Yes.
Nicholas? No. Next.
Boom.
I respect the question, but no.
Yeah, if I can get away with not getting into copyright infringement, yes, I would definitely fucking get into a choose your own adventure style book. Absolutely.
When he said like interactive, because like I've written a couple video games that came out, which was really cool. But yeah, I would definitely do like a choose your own adventure book. I think that would be a blast.
I'd try anything.
Yeah, right.
I actually just heard of one of my favorite authors that just, or it's coming out in September here. It's a choose your own adventure, and there's like 10 different ways or something you can go with it. And he writes some real twisty, like mind messing, sometimes very vulgar, dark, disgusting, gory stuff. And I'm like, now I'm interested.
Shaw?
Sorry?
Matt Shaw?
No, this Duncan P. Bradshaw.
Okay, Matt Shaw over in the UK is coming out with one that actually has interactive dice, and the way he's got it planned is the dice come with the book, and you'll roll the dice, and you'll have alternate endings to the book.
Oh,
and
man.
I think it's kind of genius. He's
quite
a character, and he's a brilliant writer, and he's dark, and he goes out there. But that, to me, is almost what you're talking about, the interactive kind of concept of everything. So where you'd actually have physical dice, and you'd roll it, and those would be the pages in the book that you would read that would correspond with it. Check out his work. I think he's got a Kickstarter or something going. He's met way over his goal, but it looks to be quite an idea.
That is cool. That's really neat.
Yeah, where
very
whatever
interactive.
the dice lands, those would be the pages you would read, and that would be your ending.
That's
Man,
like
I would get the worst ending. That would be my last.
Oh yeah, mine would be a bad joke. Yeah, I wouldn't get the cool ending. No. I get the happily ever after right off into the sunset stuff.
That's right.
You know, not the chainsaw stuff.
I'd get into like page 2 and I'd be like, "You're dead." Oh
Yeah.
man. Now I gotta start
you're
reading
done.
something.
You're done. You don't have to read anymore.
And some of those choose your own adventure books were like no joke. Like I remember I read this one, I think I was like 9, and it absolutely fucked me up. It was something about these kids going to, I don't know, they were like something about stopping Dracula or like knockoff Great Value brand Dracula or something. But anyway, I remember one of the endings was so fucked up. You're at Dracula or knockoff Dracula's castle, and you choose to either go through the front gate or to go around the side, right? I'm like, okay, no brainer. I'll go around the side and be all sneaky, whatever. So your character, he starts to climb up the wall, and then as soon as he gets up to the top, his hand goes over the wall just out of his eyesight, and his hand goes knuckle deep into the spider's nest. And then all of a sudden, like 100 or so baby spiders just start crawling down, and the whole thing's illustrated, you know? So, and then like they start biting him and everything. And then of course he falls to the ground, and, you know, choose your own adventure books, and they weren't explicit or anything, but it implied that the fall didn't kill him. That, you know, he broke his legs, broke his back, whatever. So he falls to the ground, and of course, you know, he's just laying there while 100 or so baby spiders do whatever they would do to a wounded animal, and just the end.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, like, whenever I read these things, I always had my finger, like, whenever I would go to another page, I would like keep my finger on the, like, where I was, like, oh fuck no.
That's awesome. I wish I read that.
That's too funny. It wouldn't be easy to do, though. That would definitely take talent, because I mean, trying to set it up and write different storylines, different outcomes, different endings. I mean, I wouldn't have the talent for something like that. So it's really neat to see that that's something that's out there and that people are doing that.
It would be a labor of love, that's for sure. You'd have to love it, really understand and do some research. And like, obviously, Mike's got an imprint of that one.
We've all failed. No, wait, Mike, that was when you were on the show. We had, you know, like a fight to the death kind of thing, and it was only supposed to be one man standing. And didn't you chicken out or say that you were chickening out in the end or something? I can't remember what happened.
Those are fighting words, man.
Well, and I was supposed to pick who won at the end, and I'm like, listen, that's not fair. I can't do that.
Yeah, that's like the old question that they used to ask, like, who would win in a fight between like Laird Barron and it was like Laird Barron and it was someone else, and it's like, well, Laird Barron, because the guy's like a jiu-jitsu martial arts guy or whatever, but it was always like him and like all these other like legends of horror of today, and it's like, oh well, who would win? It's like, obviously, you know. Is that
Mike?
If I'm not mistaken, Laird did the Iditarod.
Yeah, it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like a trainer and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, Mike and Marcus are always trying to liven these shows up. Mike is doing the whole, you know, fight to the death type thing, and Marcus is always saying that we need to have like some type of Jello pool and have a couple of authors fighting it out in the Jello. You know. You've done that? Is that what? I'm sorry. Did I hear that right, Robert?
I have. Yeah, I Jello wrestled in high school.
Why am I not?
Okay, but that sounds really fun. I mean, like, just to even lay in the Jello would be fun.
It was a good time. It all depends on who you're wrestling.
That's too funny. Well, okay, well, we're almost at hitting that hour and a half mark, and I don't see any other questions that are popping up in the chat. So what I'll do, because I don't want to keep these fantastic people all night. They do have families, wives, husbands, people to go back to. So we just had another question pop up. Are you guys okay to answer? Are you guys okay to answer one more?
Keep going.
Okay. And he always asks the long ones. I'm sorry, I need a better setup where I don't just have a little apple.
Good question.
Ooh,
that's a great question. Yeah.
Oh, good one.
So, don't know.
Nick's coming in hard.
Nick is like a music king. Like, he and I are always sending each other YouTube songs and stuff, and I'd be like, yo, what do you think of this? And he'd be like, that's garbage. And then he sends me something that's fire, and I'm like, of course. So that's a great question. What soundtrack do you want your readers to listen to?
Yes.
That's kind of easy. That's kind of easy for me because I've got an obvious.
Go for it.
Recently, well, my most recent, not the one that's coming out, Stacey Lane Wilson is a fabulous producer, director, interviewer. I mean, the girl does everything. Her dad was one of the original Ventures, the musical group. I just did a story in her 70s edition. She did a 3-book volume, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And I was in the 70s edition. There was just a book signing at Dark Delicacies in Burbank last week.
Ooh.
I wish I could have been there, but everything was like they sold out. I mean, they had all kinds of people come. There are actually playlists that she created for the 60s, 70s, and 80s soundtrack. And what was so cool was that when we were chosen to write the stories, it was by invite. All of the stories, you have to be aware of copyright, of course, because it's music, but you had to include everything of the era, including tidbits from the stories. So I went with Tiny Dancer, which was 1971, but it was Tiny Danger, Demon Seamstress for the band. So the entire collection is just an absolute blast, and they're some of the coolest people, and they are on audio. And literally, when I put my audio of the story on in my kitchen, I was cooking, I cried. Leanne Rao is the audio director that did and she's a high-end pro. I mean, she's just so good. I cried because I think there's something about hearing your words in audio that breathes life into them. And I've heard some of my other stories, but this one was set in the 70s. And I mean, the references that I made, it was almost like I was listening to something else. It was so cool. So that one, you need to listen to those. There's 3 of them. It's Stacey Lane Wilson Publications, and it's 60s, 70s, and 80s. And there's Spotify soundtracks for every single book. It's the coolest project. That was my most recent one.
That sounds really fun.
It is really fun. Really fun.
Who's next? Who's in the spotlight?
I say Michael.
I was going to say, should I just pick Mike?
Sure. So as far as soundtracks go, I kind of took a page from Rob's book and started making my own soundtracks for my books. And, because I aspire to be as cool as this guy. But I know, right? But
okay, wait. Robert, go with me. Let's practice now. Know this, do this.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
With his blessing, when I re-released Pottersfield Blues with the new cover and the preview for the next book, I went ahead and added like a little QR code like he did for like my own little, soundtrack. And I'm doing the same thing with everything else moving forward. Now, that being said, like if you just want to listen to something that's already out there, I mean, shit, anything by Chelsea Wolfe or Jerry Cantrell solo stuff, it's fucking gold. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like those picks, and I like that idea of having the playlist too.
Oh,
absolutely.
I love it.
Everyone needs to do it. Any authors, any writers, please.
You're up, Eric.
Yeah. Well, Rob might react to this only because I mentioned this person, Jen Champion. Now, it's worth saying though about Jen Champion though, she started in a band called Carissa's Weird, which developed its own like cult following, and then a few of those members branched off to form Band of Horses, which I think they were up for Grammys. So just understanding they came from pretty but she went from there to be called Jen Ghetto, and then she obviously at some point recognized, I don't like the notion, I don't like what ghetto signifies, I need to change this. Became Jen Champion, but if you look her up, anything, I mean, that is just like music and lyrics just coming out of her heart's too big for her body, and and her sound is amazing. And I've met her in person. I saw her in Brooklyn when I was at NYU, and I flew to Seattle because I wanted to see Seattle. But I was also I flew out there and saw her for like a $5 concert in this pretty crazy location. Wow. Yeah. But she, I don't know. And Elliott Smith, who I just adore, he was born on my birthday. He passed away, obviously, many years ago. But since he's not necessarily living, and that's not a dig, but Jen Champion, I'd say anything that she's put out. Maybe some of her current stuff's a little bit kind of playing around with the pop scene a little too much. Not that that's okay. She's growing, but her older material I'd probably put as a backdrop to what I created.
Very cool.
Jen Champion is awesome. You got
There's
me.
a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of talent out there.
Oh man.
I think with just about, I guess, any of my stuff. I think with the Sleepy Hollow story, if you put on, oh my God, I just lost it. Oh, never mind. If you put on like anything by Akira Yamaoka, the guy who did the score to the Silent Hill games, if you put that on, reading my stuff, you'll probably get a nice vibe from that. But I had it like a second ago, and then it just went out of my head for the Sleepy Hollow thing. Oh, I know what it is. It's the Pino Donaggio score to Don't Look Now. That's probably my favorite horror score of all time. So I would say Pino Donaggio's Don't Look Now score, or anything by Akira Yamaoka, especially the Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill 3 soundtracks.
That's a good choice too.
Thank you.
We have another question here from Deep Aria. Would like to know, have you ever altered a character scene or plot because it was too dark? Really?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Do you want to say what you changed?
Sure. Yeah. So I have my horror novel that I'm working on with my mentor in the HWA, Michael Nost, who's won a Stoker, and he's been nominated a couple times for other ones.
He's a cool guy.
He's awesome. Holy crap.
Yeah, I listened to him at KillerCon a couple of weeks ago. He knows so much.
He's brilliant, and he's so giving. He's such a sweet person too. Yeah, he has it right now, but I changed it before I sent it to him. I have it's a husband and wife in this novel, and there was something about the wife that was reading a little superficial in regards to one thing, and my wife pointed it out to me. She was my beta reader for this at first, or alpha reader, beta reader, whatever, and I went back and I reread it, and I was like, holy shit, like, yeah, she's absolutely right. So that, like, the superficiality of her character made her much darker than I was intending. So I changed it, and I like her a lot more. I hope people will like her more when it comes out. But yeah, one that was a little too dark that I tonally shifted a little bit for her. But the overall narrative or whatever is still remarkably dark.
Okay. That's really interesting to hear. That's really neat. Sometimes it's weird, having somebody read something and hearing it or seeing it from their perspective. That might change that thought. How about anybody else? Have you changed a character, altered a scene or plot or anything because it was too dark?
No. I have trouble going as dark as I want to sometimes within the context of the story. Because I think when you write speculative fiction or horror, there's a tendency to want to go there, regardless of what it is. There are certain things that most of us don't go to. There's just some things we just don't write. But when it comes to my characters, particularly women, and I bug myself about this, I need to make them even worse than they are sometimes, and I'm working on that, because I think there's a tendency, most of us were raised to have certain ladylike attributes, most of us, we have manners, and sometimes within the story, I just want to let them not be a part of that, almost feral in the way they think and the way they act, or their retribution, or the weapons they use. So as of yet, no, because other than the things that I absolutely will not write about, no, not yet. I hope to get to that point where it's too dark, where I have to go, whoa, did I just really write that? Not yet.
That's exciting. It will happen. It will get there. And then you're going to shock yourself.
I think
so. Mike, you said no?
I mean, I don't think I've ever pulled punches on something being too dark. I feel pretty confident that I know, as far as like extreme stuff goes, like I feel pretty confident that I know like where my line in the sand is, and like I haven't gotten to that point yet where like, you know, am I gonna cross this line or not? I did change one scene in Potter's Field Blues. It was dark, but it's one of those things where my wife had called me out on it because she wasn't sure if it was actually gonna like work, if it made sense or not. Like there was a scene where this character has another character like strung up, and you know, basically the one that's strung up is like screaming bloody murder. So to get this character to stop screaming, this character goes in and snips her vocal cords. And I thought, you know, like I saw that in a movie one time. I think I saw that in like Cannibal Ferox or something like that, where it's like, you know, the I don't know. This is part where this character was like on a table being like worked on by this mad scientist or something, and character was screaming bloody murder, and the guy like snipped her vocal cords, so all you heard was just this sloshing like of her saliva, spit and stuff like that. And anyway, I thought it was really creepy, but you know, I had that in the original version, and then my wife read that and she was like, you can't do that. That doesn't make sense. You know, like it's not anatomically correct. You can't reach in through there and snip someone's vocal cords and that. So then I looked up, I was like, oh shit, I guess you can't do that. So then I had to rewrite that whole thing. And then of course, then it wound up with being someone having their tongue cut out instead or something like that. So anyway,
that works.
Yeah.
That works.
Yeah. But yeah, like I remember that because I remember she read that and she was like, can you do that? And I was like, well, yeah. And then she's like, well, how do you know? I was like, well, I saw it in a movie. Oh, well, yeah, saw it in a movie, so it's not real. But anyway.
How about you, Eric?
I'm not afraid to go dark. I will say, I will confess that when the collection was just about to be, it was in final edits, I was taking lead on potentially removing a story. It's called Stalker 101, and I wrote it before I had a daughter, and I think I was a little bit, you know, I don't want to say changed so much, but at the same time, I reached out to my publisher and the editor, and they were like, no, you're okay. And it wasn't because they said that, but I had to review the story one or two more times before I felt like, okay, I'm okay with it. You know, Rob works in schools, I work in schools, so this isn't just about a daughter, but it's also about, you know, I don't want to say optics, that matters so much, but it's just like, it stemmed from a fear I had, and, you know, when COVID happened, I'd go out on these runs, and, you know, I got the inspiration from these like lawn signs of broadcasting every big kid's information, like their full name and everything and where they go to school, which to me I find so creepy. And too much in a universe where all you have to do is type in one of your names, and I'm probably going to land on something. So I think when I revisited that's when I was like, you know what? No, I have to keep this because subtextually that's what's going on there. It's a critique on, you're going to make this stuff available, you're going to invite some bad crap. And
predators.
Yeah, and, you know, it's told from the, you know, perspective of one of those people, but I think after reviewing it a few times, I felt like I did enough to kind of convey why that could happen, how that could happen, and so that's why I was like, you know, it's going to stay. But it was one of the first stories in a long time where I was like, I don't usually question that much, but I was like, I don't know. But like I said, as Rob knows, I mean, Rob's going to have a kid someday. I'm going to make it happen. No, I'm kidding. No, he's shaking his head. I'm going to make it happen.
Rob,
he's Godfather number 2. But
practice with me. We're going to do this again.
Wait, back to me.
Yeah. But yeah, and I don't know. I think we touched on earlier, you know, what the genre does so well, or what it sounds like Mike was working on. You got to go there, and not go there for like shock value, and I hope I'm noticed as a writer, but you got to confront the issues that are out there and confront that there are predators, there are all these types of people, and can you humanize them, and can you kind of try to capture the situation for how it could play out. And that's our job, so that's why it stayed.
Absolutely. I've popped this one last question up for you guys, and then I will let you guys go because we are now hitting the 1 hour and 40-minute mark. I mean, I would love to keep you guys like all night long and have like a, overnight party, but that just wouldn't be fair.
with like 20 pee breaks.
Yeah. That's right. Who's got the key to the bathroom next?
Sky.
So, Michael Alexander, how often do you base characters off of people you know? And hi, Rob and Eric.
Oh, hey. Michael Alexander, holy talk about an amazing writer. How often do you base characters off people you know? I've only done it really twice. I have a story in my first collection called My Indestructible Friend Steve, which is loosely based on reality. I do have a friend who seemingly was indestructible growing up, and he still seems indestructible. It's kind of crazy. And I just kind of took that and went to the natural place that it was some sort of supernatural thing. And then in the horror novel I'm working on, I have a character who's sort of an amalgam of probably about 3 people, including myself, and more so one person and this other person as opposed to myself. But that's really the only times that I've ever based a character off somebody that I know.
Okay. Anybody else?
I haven't yet. I've based stories off life experiences and people that I've encountered, but I've never based it off anyone I know. I don't want to get called out in that way.
Or kill them off brutally or something.
Like, is this book about me?
What did you do to me?
Simon song, who's it written about? I'm not going to go there if I don't have to. It may happen, but not yet.
Eric, Mike, either of you guys?
I don't usually base characters off people I know. I have done a few times. I have in this next book that's coming out, I based one of the protagonists off of my best friend JR, and I kind of use him as a model for that guy. But other than that, I usually just kind of wing it.
What about you, Eric?
Sometimes that's easy.
I guess that's me. No, when I lived in LA years ago, and I know I did one play that was like, I did the Robert Ottone Lord of the Flies thing where I was like, I'm going to change these characters into females. And it was like me and my brother. But I don't know. One of those I need to explore something plays, which is a disaster. But
fun.
Yeah. But my next book, in kind of Ruthann hinted at this, was familiar scenario, or a scenario I heard of. My dad in January passed, but I heard this story about his upbringing, and it could be mostly fiction, but I heard it from multiple sources, which was like, there was this incident, and then there were these 3 kids left in a home just stranded for like this a certain amount of time. Well, I can't really write a book fully about those 3-year-olds who were abandoned, but I was like, okay, I'm going to take that scenario and go, they're teenagers, and then start from there. And so, like I said, I don't know how true it is. I know it's from what I was told, and when you're growing up, you believe what you're told, but that's kind of how that one came, and that's coming through real people telling you stuff. So, not so much. I don't have anything in my current collection that's out that's about anybody I know at all. It's just scenarios and go from there.
That's cool. That's really neat. I actually learned, I think you were on that show, Rob, when I found out that Calvin Ellis had wrote me in as a character for one of his short stories, and he already killed me off, and I had no clue. And he won't tell me how. I gotta wait till I can read it.
I have it's actually, so I did a charity thing with, I used to be a co-host of this video game podcast with my friend Julian, and we did this charity thing where we raised money for, oh my God, what is the name of the charity? I don't remember now, but it was about supporting children who needed devices to help play video games if they had some.
Yes.
Yeah, Nichi, you donated. Thank you.
Yeah.
And one of the prizes that we gave away was I would write the second highest person who donated their name into a story. And I've been obsessed with this because it started out as a short story. And then I messaged him and I was like, hey, man, I kind of keep riffing with this. Like, how do you feel about a novella instead of a short story? And he was like, hey, man, whatever you want to do. So, like, I guess that's kind of a thing that's sort of based on somebody, but it's more like his video game character name is what he goes by online. It's really kind of interesting. But, like, I guess that in many ways is, like, sort of, like, based on a person, but more based on, like, an avatar that a person created.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But he's still honored, I'm sure.
I hope so. He might hate it. I don't know.
Fingers crossed. Well, I want to say thank you guys so much for coming on. I don't want to keep you too much longer because we're 15 minutes away from hitting 2 hours already. And I enjoy these so much, but we've got families and kids and husbands and wives to go back to. And, of course, a rest of your weekend to enjoy. So thank you guys so much for coming.
Thank
you. Thank you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So much fun. Thank you.
They're always so much fun. Like I said, I could do this and just have like a sleepover party online here with everybody.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
I'll just take you guys all to bed with me. Kate, it's right next to me. So let's go. But I thank you guys so much. And thank you everyone that came in the chat, asked questions, some of those really hard-hitting questions. I will make sure to have every one of these wonderful people in the description right after this. I will go and put all of their socials, all of their links in there so you can go and check them out, go buy their work, go pick it up, go read it, leave a review for everything you read because it is extremely important. Please and thank you. Absolutely. I'm just going to pop up.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for coming. Thanks for popping on. You guys are welcome anytime.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, thanks, Tim, for coming.
Yeah.
We're going to have to... Tim's going to be coming on here, and that's going to be a good one. So,
nice.
Yeah. And I'm sure he wouldn't mind if people hopped on with us. Yeah. So there'll be some extra seats if you guys are interested.
Okay.
I hope you don't mind, Tim. Just kind of welcome anybody aboard. But, yeah, Thank you guys so much. You guys enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I almost said Friday. And the rest of your weekend. And I will talk to you guys all later.
Thank you so much.
See you guys.